Hi guys and girls, I'm Obsidian Ant and this is Planetary Annihilation. Now Planetary Annihilation is a real-time strategy game set across a solar system where your field of battle are individual planets. Now you can wage war across a single planet or multiple planets. Your units are comprised of mechs, vehicles and air units, in addition to naval units as well as space units. The game does have some spiritual roots back with Total Annihilation, which was released way back in 1997. Now I'm just going to jump into the game here with an AI Skirmish, which means just me versus the PC, and I'm going to wage the war across a single planet because that generally makes the conflict a little bit more intense as the battle gets going very early on in the game. The two guys you can see here are our main units. They're our commanders, and the game is over when one of them is destroyed. That's basically the victory condition. Defeat the enemy commander. So you can see the solar system here. There's the sun right there, and here's the single planet, which will be our field of battle. And I can choose one of two starting zones, and both of them are next to the ocean. Now being next to the ocean is kind of handy, as it means the enemy has one less avenue of attack against us, unless of course it comes across the sea. I'm going to choose this area here, number 1. The little green dots you can see there, they're resource nodules, and we can send little units out to build nodes on them and gather the metal. And he's capable of constructing buildings and is actually very fast at doing that. I'm going to set him to task doing that right away with the construction of a vehicle construction plant. So the battle can pick up fairly fast, usually within the space of a few minutes, around about 5 minutes or so. You can find yourself faced with the enemy AI sending units over to attack you. So we do need to get a move on and make our setup fairly quick. Now most of these factories are also capable of creating fabricator units, and fabricator units can construct factories as well. So I'm going to send my commander over to build some energy plants, as he's very quick at building, and I'm going to set the factory to build a bunch of fabricator units, and I'll then get them to go out and gather some resources, some metal resources, and get the next batch of the fabricator units to build some more factories for me. So as you can see, the commander has already built one energy plant and is well in his way of finishing off the second one. The commander's very fast at building in comparison to the fabricator units. Now I've got two little fabricators here, and I'm going to tell them to build the metal collection resources. And there you go, you can see straight away they're already building a metal collection node straight in my immediate vicinity, and they'll then travel off around the globe here looking for other nodes to build on, and I'll get this third guy to do the same thing as well. You can never have too much metal. So metal is one of the resources we need, and the other resource is energy, which is manufactured with the energy plants that my commander's currently building. But we also need both metal and energy storage units. I'm going to build an energy storage unit here, and up the top in the right hand corner of my UI, or the right middle of my UI, you can see my energy output as well as its total capacity. And building a storage unit will increase the available capacity I have, and that same story is true for the metal, which you can see on the top middle left of my UI. It's currently filling up now with metal, and once that reaches capacity, it's only 1k units, I'm going to need to build a metal storage unit, which I'll get the commander to build. I'll get him to do that now, and that'll increase my available metal storage. Now my little fabricators are going off over the top left there around the globe to build some new metal resources, and these guys here are constructing another factory for me, and I need to start building some units now rather fast, because before much longer I'm sure we're going to have our first enemy contact. Now you don't have to wait for a factory to be fully completed before you can start queuing unit production within them, which is why I've started queuing tanks into that factory, and it's actually produced the first combat ready tank now. But we also want some more factories as well, so we'll place these ones here. If I can get 3 in a row, well, we'll go for 2. I'll queue some units here. These ones have an area effect attack. In the other factory, what should we put in there? Let's have a look. Right, we want some bots. Let's just have some regular ground attack bots in there. I always set around about 100. That means I can basically set production of the units and forget about them and just await their arrival. Okay, so that's our first enemy contact there. They're not actually right near our base, so it's probably a case that our fabricator units, the ones going out and collecting the metals, have actually come across the enemy units. But I'm not going to worry about that too much at the moment. I want to concentrate on building my base up here. Oh, and there we go, there's the scout. We made short work of him. One thing I'm going to start needing to do then is build up some defences for the base. You can build various types of turrets. One of the turrets I like to use the most is a pelter, and this basically sends mortars over to the enemy units that are attacking you. I'm also being told that I need more energy storage, but let's concentrate on getting some defences up first, because it's not going to be too long until we get our first attack waves coming over. We've already had the scout, so the attack waves can't be too far behind. Let's see, alright, they're clearing the ground first. Wondered why they weren't building the pelter yet. They were clearing the ground first. And there we go, there's an early attack wave down there. Looks like they destroyed a few of our units. But that's not a problem, there's loads more on the way. Let's queue some of these here on the other factory. Nearly forgot about doing that. Let's put another 100 there. A pretty good base defence is fairly essential early on in the game, especially when you're on a single player or a single planet even conflict. Let's build some more factories down here. We'd go for some air factories this time. And again, we've got another small attack wave coming over. But that's not too much of a problem really. Our pelters are doing exactly what they need to be doing, but let's create a few more of them anyway. You may have noticed me selecting multiple fabricators when constructing a particular building, and the reason I'm doing that is because they work together in tandem on the construction. This is good because it means that the building ends up being put together a lot faster. Well, we've got quite a lot of units working together here now. Busy little bees. One of the mistakes I repeatedly made when I first started Planetary Annihilation was that I kept using individual fabricator units to build one factory. So basically I'd give them a construction project each, and it took absolutely forever for the constructions to be completed. The second mistake I made was not building enough energy plants early on in the game. If you haven't got enough energy plants, then basically your factories won't work to full capacity. They either won't work at all, or if they do operate, they'll operate very slowly, meaning your units get pumped out far too slow. Right, so it seems that the enemy AI is actually starting to construct larger waves to come over and attack us. That one's quite a fair bit larger than what is sent over previously, but they did retreat very quickly, although it seems that's because they're using a probing tactic. They're coming in, shooting, and then flying back out of range again. Right, they're coming right into range again, and there they go. They're not going to last long. So this is one of the benefits of starting with an ocean behind you, or indeed that could be a canyon or a mountain or a lava pool or anything else like that. This prevents the enemy from attacking me on two fronts. Although he hasn't come at me from the top or the bottom of my base just yet, he seems to just be coming from the front. It's possible that the reason for that is because he's short of attack units. Right, I think it's time to build a few more factories. I'm unsure whether to build some naval construction factories. Yeah, well, I will do that. The reason I'm unsure is because the ocean's actually quite small on this particular planet, and the enemy is constantly coming at me from the east or the right hand side of the screen, which I suspect that's where his base is at. But it can't do any harm to have some naval units just in case, you never know. It seems we've got some power issues as well, so time to make a few more power plants, I think. We'll get these guys to do that as they're sitting around doing nothing. Let's build a whole bunch of them, and we can forget about it and let them get on with the job. Right, vehicle factory detected, and that is where the enemy base is, pretty much right next door to our own. Sometimes they can be right around the other side of the planet. Let's see how many units we got here. Seems a little bit early still to do a preemptive strike against him. I'm tempted to give it a try, but I'd rather wait till I've got tons of units. When it comes to combat against the AI on a single planet, and that's a single AI on a single planet, there's not really a whole lot going on in the way of combat tactics. It's pretty much just Zerg tactics. That is, you just build as many units as you can, as fast as you can, and then send them all over en masse to the enemy base and hope for success. Some tactics you could use are attacking on multiple fronts, or sending in the first wave of units and then sending in backup units, or sending in ground units followed by air support, or vice versa. But there's nothing too complicated going on there. It's really about getting your base up and running as fast as you can, and being prepared both to attack and defend. Doing that correctly and efficiently really is where success can pivot on. So here's the enemy again, sending yet another wave over, and this time it's tanks, and the wave's a little bit bigger again, but they're really not lasting long against my defences I've got here. It's possible that they're just probing attacks just for the AI to measure the strength of our defences, and had they proved weak he may send over a load more units, but it's equally possible that he's just trying out his luck. But seeing as his attack waves seem to comprise of a relatively small number of units, I would imagine that he's not got a particularly large army at the moment. Hopefully I'm way out in front of him in that regards. But for now, I'm just going to continue to build a few more factories and keep amassing my units. One of the good things of having so many fabricators up front is that once they've completed the initial constructions, you can get them to build the new factories en masse, and that really means you get them completed very, very fast indeed. It's also wise to go for a fairly clean and efficient layout in your base format. It makes it easier to navigate as well as easier to defend. I have done some rather messy base layouts in the past, and units can sometimes get stuck amongst the buildings. I have even in one case had a commander stuck completely between two buildings, totally unable to move. I haven't actually been playing the game too much yet. This is still probably only about my 8th go or something like that. I've really only put a few hours into the game so far, and the most of that has actually been multiplayer against a friend. This is only the 3rd or 4th match against the AI. But I'm learning the game as I go, and planning on building up to doing multiplanetary conflicts. So yeah, the AI is trying to attack from another front there, but again, he's not really having much luck in doing that. What we've seen so far, what's presented in this particular match, is very simplistic units. As I mentioned right at the start, you can get space units. I'll quickly build one here because I can't remember if you can get some orbital bombers. If I can, that could be quite helpful a little bit further in. The thing the orbital launcher platform does allow here though is to construct ships that allow you to transport units to other planets, which obviously we don't need in this particular case, but some matches can have 3 or 4 planets, and in some cases maybe more, meaning you can have multiple massive armies spread across the entire solar system. And then of course you have the massive weapon that is in the name of the game, Planetary Annihilation, and that's the Planet Annihilator, which allows you to destroy entire planets with a single weapon. And that sort of thing can occur far into the game on the much larger matches. So still a little bit of combat going on there as the enemy still keeps trying to probe my defences. I'm actually convinced at this point that he's got a very small army because he's not sending over any large number of units at all. So I'm going to create an army here. I'm going to pull all my units here together into a single force and send them over and attack the enemy base. I think it's about time. And look at those air units move. Of course the air units move fastest, the vehicle units are the second most fastest units, and the bots, the ground-based bots, are actually very slow, so the idea is just to move them all to a point where they can amass together and then send them in. Of course I could send the air units in first as they're very fast and allow them to do the initial strike, but I don't know his defences as I haven't bothered to send in a scout. I'm quite confident at this point I can take him, so I'm just going to go right ahead and send all the units in at once. I've actually got a few more units over there that I've missed, and a nice change in pace of the music there in the background. Interesting stuff. Alright, let's get going. Those last remaining units can catch up. Look at that. Tons of them. It sounds like they may have met the enemy. I'll get over there just in a second, but before I do that I want to start constructing a few more units just in case I need them. And yeah, here we go, we've met the enemy. He's sending over his defences, and he does have a number of turrets, so I should concentrate my fire on them straight away, as they're just going to destroy my front lines very rapidly. And right there is the enemy commander. Let's focus fire on him. He's already down to very little health, and there he goes. Gone. One heck of a nice big explosion there, and you can see all these other units blowing up in the background there. All these factories and units die when the commander dies. A victory. Yes. Now, one of the really nice things about Planetary Annihilation is that we can view the game stats after a match, and those can be quite extensive. They detail pretty much everything in a and give us comparison charts between us and our enemies. In some cases there may be multiple enemies, so of course we'll have multiple lines on the chart, but in this case we've just got 2. And we can see my proficiency and unit construction in relation to the other guys, as along with how much energy we were using, how fast we built, how many units we ultimately had. So a whole bunch of stats to compare. It did seem to get off to a very slow start for some reason. Sometimes the AI can get off to a much more rapid start than that. So I pretty much outpaced him the entire time. But I did take some quite heavy losses near the end for some reason, so what we can do to find out why that was, we can use the chronocam. And this is an entire recording of the game that can be played back in video format, and not only video format, it's actually a complete replay of the game, so we can re-watch the map from any camera angle, and during the replay there is no fog of war, so we can see what our opponent got up to, as well as watch what we were getting up to at any particular moment. And we can zoom right out and right in again on that replay, and even look at anywhere else in the solar system, as well as anywhere on a particular planet. You can also play back at multiple speeds, which is handy, or just scrub back and forward along the timeline and see how the enemy constructed his base here. Yeah, he's really not done a very good job at all there. All he's done is build a single factory, so no wonder I've totally steamrolled him. Look at the force difference, and I suspect what happened here to my units is they get destroyed by the shockwave when the commander explodes. And yeah, look at that, totally wiped out by the shockwave. It would be interesting to see what would happen to my own commander had he been caught on the front lines in that shockwave. Would that be enough force to kill him? Probably would if he had low health, so I guess that would then be a draw. So it's something to watch out for. And look at the explosion there from the distance. Huge explosion. Very impressive. So there we go. I'm sure I'll be back with another Planetary Annihilation video at some point, and I might even bring a multiplayer match along. Anyway, as always, thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll catch you guys and girls next time. This has been Obsidian Ant, signing off.